All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, this lesson is going to be about the end of the Reign of Terror. Okay. We talked about it last class how this guy, Robespierre, basically started it, started chopping off people's heads, shooting them with those grape shots. Remember those big old iron balls that they would just put in cannons and stuff like that? He's the one who starts it. And today we're going to learn how it ends. Okay. So, the objective today, we're examining the significance of shutting down churches. Why did the French people do that? We're going to create an argument on whether Robespierre thought he might be appointed as the next king, ruler, president, however you want to phrase it, of France. Did he really think that? Did he think that, hey, I'm going to be this chingon type of guy or what? Now, you may have noticed your warm up, there's no picture. Okay. That's because there's not one. What I want you to do is to think about a time when you were a kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere around there. Okay. And tell me, how has your life changed now that you're from then to now that you're a teenager? Okay. And there should not be just one thing, you know, because I've had students put that before. I'm taller. Well, I hope so. Now, that's it. You basically dress the same as you did when you were 6 years old. You still talk the same way as you did when you're 6 years old. Still pick your nose like you did when you're 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. So there should be a pretty good chunk of things that you do differently from when you were a kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, till now as a teenager. So again, think about physically, think about what you wear, what things you liked back then, and think about stuff now. How are they different? You know, so think about it, write your response. Okay. Pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. So, Robespierre calls for a new republic of virtue in France. Thing is, he's like, you know what? The way the Romans had things back in the day, that was perfect. That was ideal. Rome was the perfect empire. We should be like that. France should be just like how Rome was back so many years ago, back 1,000 some years ago. So one of the first things he does is basically says, you know what? We can take the virtue part of it, of Rome, which was good education equals good citizens. If you have people in your country who are smart, well rounded, common sense, have basic knowledge, they'll do well in life and they will become good citizens. So he basically said primary education for all people. Okay. Now, primary education is basically from kindergarten to like sixth grade. And if you wanted to learn more after that, yeah, you're going to have to pay for it, for that type of education. But the fact is, you should know the basics: reading, writing, mathematics, science, history. You should know this stuff. Not just, oh, I was there in class, I was there, I wrote down something. No, he's really like, you should know it and have the knowledge of that, all that information. Again, reading, writing well, same thing with science, mathematics, and history. Like, you know this stuff. It's not just like, oh, yeah, I just remember something about so and so. No, that's not education. That's not educated. Okay. So he felt that should be number one thing. Number two, he felt slavery was wrong. France is one of the first countries to say, let's get rid of slavery. Because again, he saw slavery as a horrible thing. Having keep people in chains and bondage and making them work for free, basically working them to the death. He says, no, no, no. Get rid of slavery in all French colonies. This was a big whoa. Because even the United States, they're like, 60 some years away from this. You know, there's slavery won't end for another like 60 some years, and it's going to cost, and basically it takes a war to end slavery in America. And he did it without it, a war. Okay. The other thing he said was price control. He's like the price of food, fuel. Fuel is basically like stuff to heat up your oven, your house. The keep the heat on, things like that, and clothing. All those prices were way, 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 way too high. He's like, no, the price should be down here where people can afford it. Now, everything else besides food, fuel, and clothing, he's like, if you want, this furniture, that's extra. That's a luxury. You really need these sofas and stuff of that? No, you really don't. So those prices can be as high as they want to be, you know. But the important things down here. Now, there were some drawbacks to this, though. Not every single town gave out the free education. Okay. And there's so many little towns and villages around France that it was hard to make sure that everyone was being educated every day and stuff like that. It was hard to enforce it. Okay. Now, the other thing that happened too around this time was women. Remember, from a couple lessons back, the women were the ones who marched to King Louis's palace in Versailles with the cannons and the spears and the guns and things like that. They've been supporting the revolution since day one. You can kind of even say that it may have even started with them. And yeah, now here they are. They're like, hey, we've been the voice of the revolution. We've been here since day one. We want some things. Everything's been going to men, to men. What about the women? What about us? So they're getting kind of upset. And I hate to say this, but things didn't really go their way. Most of the men in France believe that women should not be involved in politics or the military. They're like, no, no, that's a man's thing. Um, you women need to just go home, take care of the family, stuff like that. That's your role. You shouldn't be in politics. You shouldn't be thinking about fighting in the military. Um, and like I said in class, um, me personally, if you've ever heard women arguing, they'd make great politicians because they know how to argue. And if you've ever seen girls fight, they can handle themselves. So, yeah, they should be in the military. That's just, again, my personal belief. But again, at that time, most men were like, no, girls need to be away from that. Now, at a convention, some people started talking about de Christianizing France, meaning getting rid of all religious stuff, because they believe that religion leads to superstition, instead of reasoning. Instead of people going, if I break a mirror, am I really going to get 7 years bad luck? If a cat crosses my path, am I really going to have bad luck? So they felt that people who were religious are going to be superstitious, like, oh, yeah, no, don't break glass, don't break a mirror, don't let a cat walk in front of you. So they were kind of like, eh. So what they wanted to do was get rid of the word saint on every street name. So there'd be like a street name, um, Saint Marcos. Well, now the street was just going to be called Marcos Street. You know, churches were looted and closed. Looted means that stuff was stolen from there. Um, Marriages still were performed at churches and some of that, but one church in particular was so amazing, so beautiful, so grand that the French people were like, yeah, we can't close it down. Yeah, nobody wants to steal from this place. And that's the one you see in that picture right there. That is Notre Dame. Or as one student said in class, Notre Dame? We as Americans say it Notre Dame, but it's really Notre Dame. Okay. And again, that church is so amazing, so beautiful, so grand that the French people were like, yeah, let's call it a temple of reason. Because they didn't want to close it down. They didn't want to people to loot from it, steal things from there. So they said, no, 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 this is not a church. This is a temple of reason. Right? Another thing they wanted to do was change the calendar. Yeah, they were like, let's start it fresh, not from when Jesus was born, like the Roman Catholic calendar. No, 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 no. Let's start today, September 22nd, 1792, the first day of the French Republic. Yeah, that's not really going to work. Now, the committee was saying all this stuff, right? But Robespierre was like, yeah, no, most French people would not accept these, you know, because the thing is, um, if you de-Christianize France, you're going to tick off a lot of people because France is overwhelmingly Catholic. There's a ton of Catholic people in France. So to take out the saint names and things like that, you're really going to tick off a lot of people. And here's the other thing, too. During the French Revolution, while they're chopping off people's heads and some of that, there's other countries around France who are like, you know what? We should, while they're busy killing each other, we should try to take some land from France. Yeah, start attacking these little outside areas and get some parts of that land for us. So countries like Spain and Italy and Germany, Prussia, you know, they were looking at France like maybe we could take a piece of them. Here's the problem: France's army was the largest in Europe. They had over 1 million soldiers. Okay, and anytime someone tried to attack France, they had soldiers ready to fight them and fight them, push them back, and that's what they did. Okay. So before the French Revolution, the king would say, yes, yes, go fight at this place, go defeat so and so. Now it was the French people who controlled the army. And they would basically say, yeah, let's go to war, not go to war. But um, every single time there was like, hey, this country's attacking us, they would say, yeah, defend our country, defend those people, you know. Now, in the summer of 1794, the army of France had defeated their foreign foes. Italy, Prussia, Germany, these countries that kept trying to attack them, um, they kept getting beat back. They couldn't win. Okay. And one person in particular is really going to make a, uh, stand out in the crowd in the army. And we'll get to that person next week. Now, here's the thing: the reign of terror wasn't really needed anymore. They were like they didn't need to chop off any more people's heads because they basically killed a large portion of the people who they felt were enemies to France. But Robespierre was determined to get rid of all of France's corrupt people. He's like, no, no, no. There's still people out there who don't want the revolution to be successful, who hate what we're doing. We need to find them and kill them. So in June 1794, the Law of 22 was passed. And basically, this gave Robespierre more power to arrest people and to execute those enemies of the French Republic. Now, if you remember from last lesson, how I told you some people just had to say, hey, yeah, I heard this person was talking about how the revolution sucked and, it's not going to be successful and things like that. That's all it took to get someone to be executed. But now he doesn't even need that. He doesn't need any evidence. He could just say, this person, I believe, is an enemy to the France. We're going to execute them. Now, the people from the National Convention are looking around at each other like, we need to do something. Because this guy with this much power, he's going to look at us eventually and be like, Yeah, these guys are really against France. We need to kill them, and because they're going against us, and you know, so they kind of feared. No, here's the thing: was he going to do that? We don't know. We really don't know. But the thing is, just that paranoia and that fear that this guy has that much power that he could possibly do that. They said, you know what? We need to attack him first. And that's what happened. The convention got together and they gathered enough votes to arrest and condemn Robespierre. So they arrest him and they take away his power. So on July 28th, 1794, Robespierre is placed in the guillotine and executed. The Reign of Terror, which started with him, he was the guy who said, let's start chopping out these people's heads. He was the head of the Jacobins. The people were saying, let's kill the king and the problems will be over. Um, Now that he died, everything just starts disintegrating. The Jacobins lost power right away, and the middle class people seized it. Okay, the Law of 22 was repealed, and all the people that he arrested, about to be executed, were released. Okay, the Committee of Public Safety, the group that Robespierre led, they diminished. They went away. Somebody in class asked me, "Well, why didn't somebody just take a spot?" Well, because here's the thing: if Robespierre, was seen as like, oh my god, he's too powerful when you kill him. If someone said, oh, I'm gonna take his spot, what do you think would have happened to them? And if you're thought to yourself, they would kill that person, you're right. So that's why nobody said, I'm gonna jump in his shoes. Everyone kind of was like, hey, you know what, we're good. Yeah. I was never part of that group. Yeah, no. That was somebody else. I'm my twin brother. you know. So the group went away. The reign of terror is officially over when he gets executed. And all this stuff you see with the Jacobins, the Law 22, the Public Safety Committee group, all this goes away within, I mean, a little less than a month, like several weeks actually. Okay. Churches, almost right away, are reopened. A new constitution is created. This is the picture of it right there. Now, here's the thing: these people who made this constitution realize we made a mistake because the Jacobins took over, and since they took over, they were head of the government and they did so many horrible things. We need to stop it from one political group from taking over and controlling the entire government and doing things what they want to do, and nobody can stop them. So the Constitution of 1795 set up two legislative bodies, and one can't do anything without the other. So the lower house, which has about 500 people, um, their job is to draft laws. They're the ones who think of the laws, write it down. Basically, what is it? What does it do? How does it help the society? Things like that. And then the upper house, which is about 250 people who are elected, these guys basically say, yes, we accept this law, it's a law of the land, or they say, no, this law sucks. Okay. Now, the upper house, again, they cannot say, we're going to make a law that does this or that. No, that's the lower house. That's their job. They create the laws. And the lower house can't say, we made this law. This is how it's going to be from now on. No, because they need the upper house to agree on it and say yes to it. So one group can't have more power than the other. They both have to agree, both have to say yes in order for a law to pass. All right, so here's my question to you. Remember, we talked about Robespierre, stopping slavery, education for all, putting a cap on the price of food and fuel and things like that. But he was also a guy who was like, let's chop off the heads and kill the people who are against this revolution and things like that. People who want the revolution not to succeed. So my question to you is this: do you think Robespierre was actually corrupted by power, like the power got to his head, or Do you think that he was honestly trying to make France a perfect place? What do you think? Do you think he was like just power hungry, or do you think he was really legitimately trying to make France a better place, but just did it like the wrong way? What do you think? Okay. Um, so be sure you answer that. Okay. Once you finish this question, you're done with this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, this is not the end of the French Revolution. We still got another part, which will be done next week. Okay. So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.